Friends and enemies, welcome to another episode of the Canadian Bitcoiners podcast here on the mighty CBP Media Network. My name is Joey. That is Len. Buddy, I just came back from walking a little moose there with my wife, and I got to say, hints of spring in the air here. Are we done with the snow? Are we good to move on to warmer weather, or you think we're going to get another blast? Where are you at with all this?
I'm thinking no more, like it's going to be chilly, but no more snow. I didn't even bother shoveling, to be honest, because I looked at the forecast. It snowed here, I think on Saturday or Friday, whatever the day was.
Friday did, yeah.
Friday. And by 2 days later, it was gone. It was warm enough that everything melted. Actually, it was next day pretty much melted. So, yeah, I think we're pretty much done. But still, I mean, I went out for a walk today, and it was chilly. It was windy. Yeah. It was not.
When'd you go? You're by the water, though, right? You're a little closer to the water than me. So, for me, it's really not that big a deal.
That is true, because when I used a motorcycle and when I get off the highway and go south towards, because I'm north of the lake, when I head towards my house, you could just feel like almost a cool wall of air. As soon as you cross, it's incredible, and it's noticeably like it's a several degree difference between the highway and then closer to my house. And even closer you get to the lake, it gets even cooler during summertime. But yeah, that's winter, and that's weather talk. But yeah, Joey, there's a lot going on. I'm not sure if you want to talk about what's going on over there. I see a football. Maybe you want to.
Oh yeah, no, I mean whatever. I got a ball here. I have to break in a little bit, but
you sign them?
No, I don't sign them. I bought. I told you I bought a handful of them a couple of weeks back, maybe 2 months ago now. I should say.
I thought you bought one.
No, I ended up buying a couple because I couldn't hold it, and so I ended up going with the Wilson F2000, which is the CIS ball here. But the problem is that it's the leather on it's already starting to peel off. Like, it's unbelievable how quickly these things wear down. And I went online again, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago, and just looked at like the leather content and the whether it's like Horween or different kind of leather. Horween is good leather, which is what the F2000 uses, but I don't think you can use it on a football, honestly. It's not exactly the most resilient. I don't have like a rocket arm, but I do throw it pretty hard. And so if I miss, it hits the turf, going a pretty good clip. So yeah, no big deal. Not a problem. I got the Wilson GST Prime here. It just came in the mail today. It has to be broken in a little bit, but story for another time. I thought you were going to say we have lots to talk about because the price is way up, and two of our most frequently discussed recently people are in the news together.
I'll be honest. I am so disconnected from the price the last couple of weeks. I honestly don't give a fuck about the price now. We've eclipsed 70,000 until it gets to 6 digits. Yeah. That's when I'm really going to be in party mode. But until then, it's like whatever. I want to, like, if there's a dip, I'm going to execute some buys on that. If not, I'm just do my regular DCAs.
I just want to do, before I forget, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I thought you were done. There's a lot more people listening and watching on Twitter now than there were before. I can see during the show that there's, between the 3 or 4 different streams, there's like 100 people, 120 people usually, by the end of the show. Just know that I can see your comments in the chat on StreamYard, but I can't respond to you through the StreamYard chat. So I'm not ignoring you. Thank you for listening and watching, but it's hard for me to type back. I just don't have that many hands.
I think this is the birthday episode, or is the next one?
Yeah, Jordab in the chat saying this is our 3-year anniversary. It could be, honestly. I have no idea. Len, this is put you in the same category as my wife now, right? I don't remember our anniversary either.
No, you should never forget that. No, next week is the closest by date to our original episode. I believe we recorded our first episode on March 31st, 2020.
Recorded or released? Recorded.
2 days later, it was released. I'll go back in time here. Because so April 1st is Monday next week, which means it's 1 day difference. So in terms of like how close it is, now on April, do we do 2022 or 2021?
2021. Yeah.
Man, this has been a long time we've been doing this show.
I know, 3 years.
So there it is. The 29th of March was a Monday. We recorded that date, released 2 days later on the 31st. So still, either way, it's still the closest is the 1st, isn't it?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I don't really care.
Yeah,
I'm just happy that we're still doing it 3 years later, and neither of us have gone insane. In fact, I think I've become more sane than anything else. Bitcoin has, balanced me out a little bit, if anything. I mean, if I do say so myself, my wife might disagree.
If you are going off the deep end, just say Serenity now.
That's right.
A moment to relax.
Let's talk about the sponsors. EasyDNS, flagship sponsor, man. Mark's been with us for more than a year now. Incredible partner. Helped us with our website. He is your friendly neighborhood domain registrar, as he always likes to say. Not EasyDNS related, but Mark was just on Breedlove show last week and released on Friday or Saturday. I think I listened to it. It was pretty good. I recommend you guys do the same. If you need to host a website, get a domain, any of that stuff, Mark is your guy. Talk to him. He's in the chat tonight. It looks like, at least for the moment, until he finds something better to do than listen to a couple of babbling turds, as the Looney Hour guys like to say. If you need to use a virtual private server service to do Bitcoin node, Nostr relay, BTC pay server, nodeless, you name it, he's got you covered there. If you already have a domain with a suboptimal provider and want to move over, he's got you covered. If you want to move your email over from a suboptimal provider or start getting emails at your new domain name, he's got you covered. The common theme here, Len, is no matter what you want to do, Mark has got you covered. He just sent us this book. Yeah, Managing Mission Critical Domains in DNS. I confess, Mark, I have not opened it yet, but I will, because we also do another show for Mark, as you guys know, Axis of Easy. Every Thursday or Friday, we record that depending on our schedule. So yeah, all that said, CBP Media is the code over at EasyDNS. Go talk to him. Hit him up on Twitter. Follow what he's got going on, EasyDNS, Axis of Easy, Bomb Thrower, all that stuff. And tell him we sent you. He gives you a discount. You can't beat that. And looking forward to seeing what you guys do with these tools available to you. Who else we got?
Bull Bitcoin. Come on, guys. Look at the price. You're going to buy, you're going to sell. Either way, Bull got you covered, because you could do both of those on Bull Bitcoin. On-chain and using Lightning. Now, I saw the fees yesterday. I'll take a quick peek at them now. They are still, well, they're creeping up around 31 sats per BByte on the last.
That's cheap. That's cheap.
Still, it's cheap. So you could certainly do on-chain buys and then also consolidate your transactions. Topic for another time. But if you also want to use Lightning, you could do so. That's what Bull Bitcoin gives you the opportunity to do. So you could also, with Bull Bitcoin, is because the price is so high, you could start spending your Bitcoin if you wanted to. First thing you could do, you could use your Bitcoin to pay your bills. You want to pay your electricity bill, you want to pay your car payment, you want to pay whatever the heck you want to do. You could use that to pay your bill. So Bull Bitcoin has you covered with that. The second thing you could do, you could buy gift cards through Bull Bitcoin. So you could spend your Bitcoin. Price is high for Bitcoin. You might as well start spending it if you have the option. And you can start spending that in the real world. So indirectly, you are spending your Bitcoin and you're living on a Bitcoin standard. Now, there are people that are doing this. I don't want to name names, but I know some people that are doing that. So this is a possibility. Another thing that Bull Bitcoin has, something that's very popular and something I talk about all the time, is KYC-free buys. Now, it's a good thing to do it because there's no policy, there's no regulations, there's nothing stopping you from buying and holding KYC-free Bitcoin. That's simple to do. It's not outside the realm of the law. So just do that if you haven't already done so. I would suggest don't mix your Bitcoin with your KYC with your KYC-free stuff. Try to keep them separate if at all possible. Use a passphrase, use something to just separate them. But just go to Canada Post. You could do that with Bull Bitcoin to have you covered. If you haven't opened an account, use our referral code below. If you do, and you fund your account and provide the necessary information, $21 will be added to your account, no questions asked, or simply go to iwantbitcoin.ca. That's another way to use our referral code.
You'd love to see it. We have a little treat for you guys if you do a buy in the next 2 weeks, let's say, with our referral code. We'll get to that during the show.
Yeah, the first story we'll talk about that.
Yeah,
by the way.
I think you're really gonna like it. Do you want to do the boost and then we'll get into things?
Yeah. So for boost number one, Jordab, thank you, 100 sats. I think he's still in the chat. If so, thank you very much. He says to help fund Joey's new car. Remember last week
I didn't. Okay, so I'll update on the car. I didn't need a new car at all. The fuel pump was toast. The module was fine, thank God. So I think all said, I had to get one new engine coil too, because I think I melted it, honestly. The total damage, Len, do you want to venture a guess? To get to the fuel pump and the fuel module, they had to drop the tank.
It's inside the tank.
Yeah. So how do you think how much do you think they charged me for that whole job? Hours, the pump.
$450.
$450?
Am I way too light on this?
Oh, you're way too late. Yeah, you're way too late.
I can't even, because
$2,200 I think for the $2,200 for the coil, the pump, the labor. And I had to get one other thing too. I forget now what it was, but yeah, about $2,200. So
wow,
not a new car, but we're inching every day.
This is why I do as much as myself as I can. So yeah, it's
got a couple good guesses in the chat there. Boomer guessed 2K. Derek's got 1,250. You were close. You're close, but
my neighbor has a fuel pump issue, and he's going to do it himself. He's now he can't even start the car, so get that on a ramp. It's going to be fun.
The thing is with like, I don't know what other cars like, but with like, I have a Volvo, and I think that the assumption from Volvo is that the fuel pump is something you might do once in the life of the car. So the sacrifice they make, or the trade-off they make, trade-offs are something we're very familiar with in Bitcoin, obviously, is a lot of the other parts and peripherals are easily accessible without having to drop major pieces of the car out of the equation to replace them or to get at them to identify a problem. Problem is the fuel pump is the one that they chose to trade with, right? And so that one's a little harder to get to naturally, and hopefully you only have to do it once, but fingers crossed.
Diesel for us, the pump it's accessible. As soon as they pop the hood, it's right there.
Yeah,
easy to get to. Very expensive with diesel. That's why you have to put quality fuel, change your fuel filter often.
Yeah,
and if there's any water whatsoever in your fuel, you're gonna just wreck the pump, and that's not cheap.
Yeah.
So, but it's easy to replace. That's the good thing.
Yeah, and like I was thinking about last week when I was talking about looking at new cars and stuff. I can't justify it. Like, it's not even the money, because I think what I would do is I would finance as much of it as I could, given that inflation is kind of like way out of control. I'll take the last car payment out of my couch. I think I said that last week too. But it's just like the amount of money a car costs now it's batshit, honestly. Like, you can't get a decent car with under 100,000 miles for less than 25K. And I say decent, I would even I'm throwing like Civics, Kias, Mazdas.
Oh yeah. We were talking about this yesterday with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
That if you want to buy brand new, there's very few options you could get under 25,000 on the road.
Yeah,
it's actually, I think, only one or two options.
I was gonna say, it's like very few is an understatement. There's almost none under 25, under 30 even. Yeah. Anyway, so, Jordan, thanks, buddy. I'll put that, whatever that is, 40 cents. Not even 4 cents probably.
I'll tell you, in the 20th year of my car, when my car turned 20, that year I didn't put a single penny into it. I didn't change the oil. I didn't change the tires. I ran winter tires all year round.
Nice.
That year was the best year for that car. Not even a fucking penny went into
winter tires. Winter tires, like, you can hit a curve pretty hard in winters. Those things are like marshmallows as soon as it gets to be like 10 degrees. So you can fucking hammer it. Some of those ramps
fast, but those winters were kind of on their last legs, so that was happy. Yeah. But that was a great year. Last year I had 21st year. I had to change the oil, unfortunately, and buy a new set of tires. But oh well. Anyways, keep this moving. Teats 500 sats. He says your coffee table is a shitcoin, because I put my coffee table out on a curb last week, and it went. Somebody took it. So it's not really a shitcoin. Somebody took it.
Did you get the interview with the guy? Can we post it?
No, it was. I went to bed at night. The morning it was gone. It was still there at night. So somewhere between me going to bed around 10:30, 10 o'clock, and then waking up at 6:30 ish, then 7 o'clock, it was whatever. Mo BTC Dick 500 sats. Joey, you most definitely want a Toyota. My first car was a 2000 Toyota Solara with 300,000 kilometers. Original everything. Replaced the original clutch at over 200,000 kilometers. Buddy, I'm at almost 500,000 with my clutch. No slippage still. Currently, I own 2 Toyotas after a Civic and a Subaru Outback. Both were awesome cars, but the Toyotas paid for themselves. There's a ringing endorsement for Toyotas, in case you're
Mo BTC Dick, longtime friend of the show. Like, he's got some rep for sure here. So I would consider it. I wanted to buy a Highlander instead of the CRV we got in January, but my better half, the woman to whom I'm related by marriage, wouldn't budge. So there you have it. I'll think about that though, for sure. That was another one that was on my list. I should have mentioned it earlier, but now that it has Mo BTC's ringing endorsement, higher on the list.
Check it out. So Doom
is that car advice? Is that advice? Not car advice. NCA.
No, that's definitely car advice. It's not going to wreck you financially if you do that, right? So Doom Damazim 521 sats. He says, "Thank you for your time," and that's it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'll be happy to read whatever comment you put in there. Rander 555 sats. Joey, you were spot on when you talk about the Liberal/NDP quote unquote safe supply method for help users. It does not help. It only hurts them further. There is a phenomenal documentary put together by Aaron Gunn on YouTube on this issue. He compares BC to Alberta. Smith and BC has decided to build facilities to sober people up and make them contributing citizens in society. It's amazing to see the contrast from a shit approach to a common sense one.
Yeah. The true debate is not between safe supply and abstinence. Like this is sort of the, that's the left curve debate at this point. It's really like just morons debating which one is better. The real debate at this point, in my opinion, I'm not an expert, but like I said, I have some experience in this. The real debate is between going full abstinence and using opioid replacement therapies. And something we've, tackled at Wayside over the years. And I think we did a good job. We opted to go with some ORT options, and our results have been, honest to God, man. Like I talk about this all the time. We, the show raises funds for Wayside, and we did a donation this year, as we always do. And I know some of you guys have supported Wayside in the past as well. The results are staggering. And I just went to bat for this with an accreditation team last week. Wayside goes through a 4-year accreditation cycle, like a lot of agencies do. And one of the things me and the board president, I'm the vice president of the board at the moment, talked to the team about was like, look, it's not like Wayside and a lot of agencies in our boat have a lot of tailwinds, like everywhere you look, it's a headwind. It's safe supply. We have to, destigmatize use. We have to allow open abuses of these things in our streets. We don't have to do any of that. And it's not like there's nowhere to look to see whether or not these techniques are better or worse than what we're doing and what a lot of abstinence-based agencies are doing. And it's frustrating to see that. So I do appreciate those kind words, man. I would check that out from Aaron Gunn. I'm always interested in seeing what's going on in the substance abuse space. It's so important. And you're affected by it. I used to say that you're affected by it because someone is using, or someone knows someone who is using. But now with these like 10 cities popping up and the abuse becoming more and more rampant, it's affecting you in a major way. It could affect your kids, on their bus route to school or something like that. It's everywhere. We all got to learn about it one way or another. And it's important to learn the right things, I think. So thank you. I'll definitely check that out.
You want to go right into the Bitcoin?
May as well. Your buddy Dave and your buddy Madex up to something. What happened? Talk to me about it.
Okay, yeah, there was certainly some drama. That's what we'll call it, right? Because so people that are unaware, this is what happened.
Hold the tweet. Madex. You got the tweet? Keep talking. I'll find the tweet.
So Madex, he's a Bitcoiner and an artist. He sold a piece of art and he posted this on Twitter, on X, whatever. It's nothing unusual or extraordinary at this point, but after Madex made this post, then steps in Mr. David Bailey, the CEO of Bitcoin Magazine. And he seemingly was trying to push the inscription narrative by asking to trade a JPEG. So Madex would have taken a picture or given a JPEG version of a piece of art he sold, given it to David Bailey. And in return, David Bailey would send Madex 1 BTC. So essentially, it's a JPEG for something, right? What, $70,000, whatever the heck the price of Bitcoin is right now.
Yeah.
The reason why he turned it down was not because he didn't want or didn't need the 1 Bitcoin. He said it would be helpful to him, but the cost to sell it would be too great. So it's not just simply the cost of selling it. There's more to it. And I'm paraphrasing here, but he was saying accepting the offer would be more like selling a part of Madex's soul to the inscription crew. That's what he said. And the intent of this whole exercise, I believe, and Madex too, according to him, was to scam a greater fool. That's the words he used, scam a greater fool. And anybody out there that is, supporting Madex, they should be doing this through buying his physical work. Anything that he's selling, the physical work, the proof of art, let's call that proof of art, that's available for sale. You could, not some stupid fucking JPEG. And we have to give credit here to Madex for turning down this offer. Like, let's be honest. If anybody's offered a single BTC for a fucking picture, a lot of people would accept it. And it's hard to say that it's the wrong thing to do. But Madex did this because he's a man of character and he has integrity. That's why he didn't do this. And these are some of the qualities of people in this world are missing. And a lot of people are just willing to sell to the highest bidder. And a good thing he's not. And I'm very happy for this. Now, as a result of this, what we're doing here at the CBP, people that have bought through Bull Bitcoin using our referral code, all the money we've collected for the past, I guess, couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Through that. And all the money we're to collect for the next couple of weeks is going to be donated to Madex. So everybody out there, buy using our referral code. All the referral money that we're going to make through that is going to be sent to Madex as a way to thank him for what he did here. He turned down $70,000 US. We're obviously not going to have enough to cover that, but we're going to do our part. And if anybody wants to make a donation to him, I would suggest you do so. We're also going to send all the boosts that we have. Right now, we have 42,000 sats in boosts sitting on our wallet from Fountain. If you want to send some boosts, those boosts are also going to be redirected to Madex. And hopefully this is going to make him feel a little better for making this decision. He made the right decision. Financially, it hurt, though. But if you want to see more of Madex's work, check out his website, madex.art. Or you could check out his X handle, Spaceball. So if you're interested in it, it's there. But as for the 1 BTC for the JPEG offer, I have to give credit to David Bailey. Through this offer, he tried to make inscriptions look like a place where Bitcoin art could have a home, right? The people behind it, David Bailey, the CEO of Bitcoin Magazine, Mike Germano, he's the president, right, of Bitcoin Magazine, UTXO, right? They're the assets management, the assets management arm behind Bitcoin Magazine, too. We can't forget about them. These are the guys that are also trying to sell JPEGs on their website for upwards of 10 BTC. Well, all those people I've mentioned, they can all fucking suck my cock. That's the reality, right? Better yet, how about a fucking tea bag? You can lie down in a dentist chair. You can just open up and I'll give you a couple of salty eggs just right in your fucking face. You could just enjoy that. Make an inscription of that, by the way. That's what I would suggest. But the value will always be 1 fucking sat. That's it. We're dealing with 1 fucking sat. And because of this, these guys could suck my fucking cock. That's all I got to say about this. Good on Madex. We'll be happy to donate whatever we make the last couple of weeks plus the next couple of weeks for everything we get for the referrals and boosts, and we're going to direct it right to it. But that's all I got to say about this. What a fucking joke.
My view on ordinals is like, I think ideologically it's aligned with you, but I don't care if someone finds the sats valuable. Like if Bitcoin Magazine wants to sell ordinals, like I've said this before a million times, you and me have some agreement but some disagreement on this topic. I don't care. I'm more baffled by the people who buy them than the people who sell them. I'll say that. And to me, the Madex thing, it's kind of neat, man, honestly. And I think the thing that he thought about, and I plan on bringing him on before the conference for another show, although it won't be 3 hours long this time. The thing I think that he thought, even though he doesn't mention it in his video, by putting something like that on chain, whether you think it's valuable or not, whether someone else thinks it's valuable or not, like 100K is a lot to turn down. But I think what he's looking at is, man, I sold a lot of art to a lot of people with the sort of implicit understanding that this was a physical thing, proof of work type thing. And you guys paid a pretty penny for it because it was a 1 of 1 or a 1 of 5 or something I produced on my own. And it really meant a lot to me. And I don't want to, send a digital version to Bailey or anybody else and have it inscribed, because that dilutes the scarcity of the stuff that's already out there. I think there's something to be said about that. And I'm pretty happy that he did that as someone who bought something from him, and I continue to support him. I have a couple of hoodies and a couple of shirts. Does it mean that the ordinals thing is done and dead? No, people will still find value in these things. There's always a market for, that sort of collectible, even if it's a kind of a gray area as far as scarcity. Like I'm with you there. I don't get the whole rare sats thing. I don't personally see value in it, but I was pretty excited to see that. And man, Len, like, talk about steel nuts. That's a lot of money to turn down. 100K in Bitcoin is a lot of money to turn down. And he wasn't even asking Madex to inscribe it. He was just asking him to send him a JPEG, basically, right? Like, email it to him and give him his blessing to inscribe it. So I am impressed by this in a major way. And I think it's one of the reasons that you and I, behind the scenes agreed pretty quickly, like, we should support this guy. He gave up a lot of money here, and every little bit that we can give him to, applaud the decision, I think it helps. I think it's worth it. I think it's a worthy way to support him.
Big time. And encouraging you to use our referral code so we could help support him.
Yeah, exactly. All that. So every penny, man. Yeah, every penny we get. And you guys buy a lot of Bitcoin. And so, we get, like everyone knows, we get a little bit of a kickback when you guys buy on our code. It's not much, but if everyone does it in like a focused way for 2 weeks, I think it'll make a difference for Madex. Also, the guy, like, not to turn this into like a World Vision commercial or anything, but he just busted up his ankle pretty good too. I'm pretty sure he's in a cast. So like he's not having that good a time right now. It'd be good to cheer him up. And I think, between the community and the financial support, it'd be a really nice gesture. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys put together with your buys.
I think through this whole exercise here is we're seeing there's a lot of resistance towards what's going on with Bitcoin Magazine and all the players involved over there. There's a lot of people that are voicing their displeasure. And I think that the tides are turning with respect to them. Up until maybe 6 months ago, maybe a little bit less, it didn't seem like there was much backlash, but now there seems to be so much more. And
I got to ask you, how do you feel about, because obviously Mark Goodwin, who's the editor-in-chief of the magazine side, okay, the print, the media side, and then Bailey's the president of the BTC magazine, the corporation, or the
CEO,
CEO of the whole operation, right? The sort of umbrella corp, let's call it. I think on Twitter they're very quick to point out that there is a wall between the two, and I'm not sure. Like when I hear people say that Bitcoin Magazine is like a scam operation, I don't agree with that personally, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Like, I don't know if you saw the list of speakers for the conference this year in Nashville. Like, there's some pretty big names on there. Like, so do you find guys like Luke Groman, Michael Saylor, like, are these guys now guilty by association for you, or do they, like, are they above it? Like, where do you come down on that stuff? Like, surely you don't view Saylor as a scammer or like propagating a scam for speaking at the Bitcoin conference. So where do you put him? Like, how strong are your feelings here?
I'm indifferent to him because my opinion on him hasn't changed very much. He's part of a Bitcoin development company. Is that what the thing is? And I still don't understand how this
MSTR
works.
is, that's what they're pivoting to anyway.
Yeah, I don't understand that. Whatever it means, you know what he's doing? He's just manipulating the tools that are available to him to get as much Bitcoin. That's it. So he doesn't make him knowledgeable or a huge Bitcoiner. No, he's maximizing the amount of Bitcoin he could get.
Doesn't make him a visionary though, of sorts? Like, doesn't that put him?
He's taking advantage of what's available to him. He thinks that it's going to be going up in price, but I don't know. Whatever.
I mean, you think that, don't you? I mean, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm trying. To me, like, I'm using you as a vector for a lot of people who I think feel even more strongly than you that Bitcoin Magazine is just like a negative, persona non grata type institution now that just cannot be mentioned in the same breath as Bitcoin or maximalism or anything like that. And so I'm curious because I haven't really given it much thought. I like Saylor. I think he's a really bright guy. Luke Roman's a favorite of mine. There's a few other speakers on the list. Their names are kind of escaping me now, but like I'm wondering, like, the conference is coming and people are going to say what, that they're. Do
you think that Saylor is really looking at this through the lens of, say, you or I, or is he looking at this through the lens of?
No, he's not. So, he doesn't care what people think about him. No, of course not. Yeah.
Or even what's going on with the ordinal stuff. Has he even mentioned anything to do with that?
He's mentioned it.
He has?
Yeah, he's not pro or con. He's kind of in the middle. He's like, the fees are the fees. The legality is the legality based on network rules. I mean, that's where I come down to, basically. I personally, I don't know what he thinks about the value. I don't see the value, but I can't tell other people not to. I mean, I don't want to make this fucking ordinal show, but I'm just curious because the speakers list is leaking here little by little, and
let it. It goes to show you that they're fucking taking backlash for their decisions, and some of their decisions have been they've been brutal for the past little while. It's too bad because maybe 3 years ago things may have been much different in terms of our thinking of them, but just shitty decision after shitty decision has led us to this point. If you had a choice, are you going to go to the Bitcoin conference?
I'm not. Nashville?
I'd rather wipe my ass with a cheese grater than
you and I talked about, like, where to spend CBP travel budget for conferences. Like, the Montreal one's a no-brainer. I might try and get to the Bitcoin rodeo if I can put together a couple of interviews while I'm there. But I mean, Nashville's not on my list. I would sooner go to Bitcoin Park. The thing about the Nashville conference isn't the Bitcoin Magazine, whether I like them or don't like them. The biggest thing for me is that everyone I've talked to about the conference says that it's more suits than, zealots. And I kind of, I mean, you and me, without going into too much detail, like we work in a suit heavy environment. Like I kind of, when I go to a Bitcoin thing, like I want zealots. When I go to the Corn Lords meetup, like I go there to get my zealot fix. You know, I don't go there to get my suit fix. And I think the Canadian conferences are more zealotry than, you know, clean shaven suit guys. And I like that. And so maybe that's why I wouldn't
get
go.
a little bit of everything at that conference. I'm not
the Bitcoin Magazine conference.
I think you get a little bit of everything over there. I don't think it's strictly just a suit thing. I think there's side stages that placate to people that want to do other things, at least in the past. I'm not sure what it's going to be this time. I'm really not going to pay much attention to it. And last year too, they even had, remember they had RFK Jr. talk about how he, remember he's now into ETH and other things.
I know he's buying some ETH too. He's buying
Pepes and I called him out
Joe Biden
day after. The fucking day after I called him out. I said this is bullshit.
Yeah,
this is fucking speech.
I know. I think me and you have been on that kind of thing pretty early, right? Like we've seen so much of it over the last few years. Never fails. Anyway, interesting stuff. Buy some Bitcoin on Bull Bitcoin before the price gets to 100,000 and give your boy Madex a shout. I mentioned it to him this morning. I sent him a DM. I said, look, we're going to do this. We're going to announce it tonight. He's honored. No one has ever done something like this for him. So let's make it a good push and really make the guy happy. He deserves it.
StartOS.
Yeah.
Some people talk about this and some people use this. That's fine because it's a pretty good product, but they are going to be giving more options to their users out there. And they're going to be offering the ability to filter out some garbage. So some of the things that they're opening up in the config options are this is going to be kind of technical, the permit bear multisig, data carrier, and data carrier size. So this is stuff that currently is available for easily to change on Bitcoin Core when you change the bitcoin.conf file. And now StartOS users can do the same. Though,
do you want to just note? I think a lot of people don't realize the StartOS is free, even if you don't buy the Start 9 software. So you can get this no matter what you're running.
Yeah, so yeah, I ran it for a brief period of time on a old laptop, so you don't have to have the hardware they're providing you. You could simply just provide your own and run it from there. I don't think it's going to work on a Raspberry Pi. I didn't check that out, but don't quote me on that. Do some research if I could be wrong. But certainly on a laptop that has some capabilities, 4 or 8 gigabyte RAM and at least, I guess, 600, 700, 800 gigabytes of storage.
Yeah.
For a full node, I think that's the bare minimum. But again, check that out. So yeah, you could certainly use your own equipment. So now they're offering the ability to do the permit bear multisig, the data carrier, and data carrier size. So these options, what do? It just gives you greater control and flexibility on your mempool. So the policies that you put in place will dictate what it keeps in memory. So you can reject stuff that is being broadcasted by other nodes, and then as well, since it's not coming to yours, you're not going to be broadcasting that garbage elsewhere. So in other words, you can be filtering out JPEG trash and a little bit others too. So this gives, well, it makes your Bitcoin node run more efficiently. Yeah, because you only have a certain, it's not.
Listen, I agree with you on this. I think that if you're running a node and you want to you want to optimize your node by removing certain things from the mempool. It's, as you always say, you can run your node the way you want. That's how Bitcoin works. Everyone gets their own take on the node, right? So that's good. It's a good feature.
Yeah, because if it's running more efficiently, you don't have an infinite amount of RAM. You don't have an infinite amount of storage. Everything, there's a finite number. So if you could release this stuff, then you're having less of that stuff in your mempool. Yeah. And so your Bitcoin node theoretically runs more efficiently. So you don't have to make it dedicate as much memory towards it, and it's just running better. So that's good. StartOS and Bitcoin, all caps is saying, was already likely available. They're just making it now. You could toggle the UX for it. When I used StartOS, I was unable to find a way to get into the terminal to change any settings, because I was having an issue with my Wi-Fi, and in order for me to fix it, I had to access the terminal, and I couldn't find a way to open up a terminal window, so I couldn't fix that problem.
Really?
So yeah, so that's essentially we
had Matt on. Did you talk to him about that?
I dealt with the people at StartOS directly, and they're very helpful. I went to their Telegram channel. I posted the information. They got back to me. There was a configuration that just prevented me from doing it. They didn't support my Wi-Fi in the end. Then I bought a dongle, and it wasn't able to connect to it. Either way, I went to Core, and everything worked out well for me because it's just running basically a Linux version in Core, and I have total control over everything. I'm familiar with it. It works for me, but I don't want to make it a story about that. StartOS, good for them because they have the ability to now give you the options to filter out the trash on the UX side of things. So if you are running StartOS and you want to filter out these JPEG, all this garbage, you could do so. I believe you'd have to update to the latest version and go from there. So good for them.
Yeah, no really additional comment except to say that, like I mentioned earlier, you can run your node the way you want. And if you feel strongly about this, then you should take the options that are available to you of this nature when you can get them. It's been difficult to this point. I think, Len, is it safe to say, maybe not difficult, but it's been kind of off the beaten path to this point because ordinals and whatnot really didn't come into the picture until last year, right? So now people are looking more at this and they're saying, I either want to support these or I don't. How do I do it? What's the best way? This is the best way, right? It's another way you can vote and voice your opinion with the network space that you allow these things to take up. So up to you, but definitely options, man. Like always, Bitcoin development delivering, right? It's not quite core development, but all these things that are kind of tangential to core, they're starting to show different ways to be active in these debates, maybe without shit posting on Twitter. It's nice to see.
Pablo's asking, can it be retroactively purged from the mempool? Yeah, you could go ahead and make the change and it will not show up any further on your mempool. So definitely make the change, restart, and you're good to go.
Is there a tutorial on this anywhere? Do you want to like point people to a tutorial?
I don't know where it would be. Go to Start09 and see if they have something. I don't run it, so I'm not exactly sure what's the process to eliminate this, but I know somehow it has just got to be an option that you put on the Bitcoin.
All caps. If you guys are in the live chat or if you're listening later, at this point in the chat here, it's 36 minutes, 48 seconds in on the live chat. Bitcoin all caps is making some, he's posting some comments on how to do it. So
yeah, he said you got to edit the bitcoin.com file, and sure, they're going to have that file somewhere. Just I was not able to run a terminal to fix my Wi-Fi issue, and B, I can't remember if there's a way to edit the bitcoin.com file through the StartOS UI. Maybe there is a way to do it, but I can't remember that. I only ran it very briefly before I ditched it and just went to Core. So who knows?
Okay, yeah, good stuff. Anyways, yeah, all caps. Thank you for your comments there too, buddy. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to show up, there's going to be a having party. I'm just going to go on a little bit of tangent here. April 20th in Waterloo Innocente Brewery, 5 p.m. it starts, and maybe Bitcoin All Caps will be there. I'm not sure. If you're not at Bitcoin All Caps, please.
I've never been to Innocente and not seen All Caps there, so he may be living in the brew room, honestly, for all I know. So, I'm not sure.
Greenpeace, buddy. Let's talk about Greenpeace because they're back to stirring the Bitcoin FUD pot, and they released a new report, and it ties a bunch of entities together: big oil, dirty coal, gas plants, right-wing climate deniers, and of course Bitcoin. This is just like one big whole fucking mess just thrown all together.
I love it.
The beef they have is with the proof of work system.
Do they say it's beef, or is it more of a Beyond Meat patty with us? Which is it?
Sorry, say it again.
Do they have a beef with us, or do they have a Beyond Meat patty with us?
Either way, let's go. The Beyond Meat that they have with us, or with Bitcoin in general, is the proof of work system, right? And this, there's no way to dance around it. It requires an enormous amount of energy. Currently, it's using a lot of energy, and it's going to be using even more moving forward. There's no way around that. But they point at the large Bitcoin data centers, but they make no reference, not a single fucking reference to the server farms that like Google and Amazon or any other company out there keep running because they use the very same energy that does Bitcoin miners, right? And their report is also claiming that Bitcoin mining are also using lobbyists to push friendly regulations towards Bitcoin mining. Imagine that.
Len, are these friendly regulations in the room with us now? I have not seen any friendly regulations.
Well, you know what? Remember 2-3 weeks ago, we talked about the team Biden were throwing out the idea of
30% excise tax. Yeah.
Yes. Is that friendly regulations? Friendly. No. So really, come on. I mean, do they really prefer flaring or venting methane gas into the air?
Anything but me getting rich. That's all they don't want. Yeah.
but it's fucking Ripple that's behind this, right?
I know.
Or at least I think that they're still behind it because they were behind the previous round of FUD. Why not this time? And remember, it was change the code campaign. And where did that get them? It's going to get them nowhere if they try it again. The fucking thing won't work because as a node runner, I can run whatever the fucking node I want to run. There's nothing stopping me from doing it as long as it complies with the Bitcoin network as we know it. I'll run it. And you can't stop me. Not on top of that, I can mine where the fuck I want to mine, including Bitcoin. I can simply just plug it in. Sure, I'm a small garage miner if I ever do something like that, but still, I could participate in the Bitcoin mining process. So I could complete the circle. The only thing I'm not doing is developing Bitcoin. So really, like, what the fuck are they after? This is just a whole bunch of nonsense. And just throwing this all together, right-wing climate deniers, and throwing us together with, like, get the fuck out of here. These guys, they're just doing this for the sake of getting publicity, right? Yeah. Who's paying for this? I'm thinking it's still Ripple. I don't know. Maybe it's a conglomerate of individuals or companies. Who the fuck knows? But either way, it's going to get nothing. This is just, it's totally bullshit. Nothing's going to come out of this, and it's going to change, at least globally. No opinions are going to be changed whatsoever. So fuck you.
All agreement from me there. It is Ripple. I think in the community notes on Twitter, they got nicked pretty good. And I believe that there was also a response from some major player in the ETF issuance space that's now dabbling in Bitcoin, though I forget which one. It's good to see that we've basically made this pivot from, trying to counteract Brandolini's law here. We pivoted away from that, spending all our time combating just steady stream of bullshit. Like it's coming from a fire hose on the Ripple side and the Greenpeace side, to this point now where the burden of proof really has become theirs to bear instead of Bitcoin's. You love to see this stuff. It's only a matter of time until this, continues to accelerate. I don't know if you ever read the Fidelity reports, Len, but I watch the Fidelity YouTube videos that go with their reports sometimes, digital asset stuff. And even they're starting to mention it, that mining is just not the environmental harmful, thing that they thought it was 2 years ago. And in fact, there's some benefits. Everyone is coming around to this because, surprise, surprise, when you start to look at the mechanisms we use to mine, right? You're looking for cheap energy, stranded energy, things of this nature, methane and flaring, like you mentioned. This is stuff that no one else wants. It's being, produced anyway. Bitcoin can help you take care of that. It doesn't get better than this. And it feels good, I think, for a lot of Bitcoiners who have been saying this stuff to their wife, brother, sister, aunt, mechanic, priest for the last 5 years, finally to have somebody with a media credential saying it on Twitter. It's good to be right. And I think we're going to be right a lot more often in the coming months and years.
Even if the WEF were seeing
them too. That's right. Wasn't there like a rainforest story? I forget now. It's coming so fast and furious, but yeah, there was something, eh?
Yeah, it was something to do with the Congo, I believe. And it was a chocolate factory, and it was, they're using the mining from excess energy from one of the local dams over there to mine Bitcoin, and the excess energy is being diverted towards
the dams are such a cool story. Like we had Oded Orgel on the show a handful of times, remember? From not DMG, that was Sheldon Bennett. Yeah, Sheldon Bennett was DMG. Ocean Falls, and Ocean Falls was one of these like abandoned mines that had this like power. All the power was there and just not being used. It's incredible, man. Like you can't. These guys like Oded, Sheldon, they got it so early. Even Linden, right? Dean Linden, who ended up, having to leave his post at Luxfolio, which has since gone kaput since he left. These guys all understood so early, and they don't get enough credit. There's a lot of people who really, popularize themselves and gain notoriety because they got it early. But there's a lot of people who got it early and just kind of are happy to contribute and remain in, semi-obscure, a semi-obscure part of the public vision. It's great. We had these guys on so early on the show, Len, and we, were kind of jaw agape during some of those interviews because we were hearing some of this stuff for the first time, and now everyone's hearing it, and they're having the same reaction we did. It's been a lot of fun to watch.
So Boomer's asking if Luxfolio gone. No, they're still trading, and in fact, there's some days they go up like 30, 40, 50%. I don't know who's buying it.
Len, let's put $1,000 in there and just see if we can double up. Like if it lands on red, well,
you won't be able to sell it. It's so thinly traded, dude. That 1,000 is gone. But anyways, we could talk about EU, and they have this anti-money laundering campaign that's ongoing, and AML is a huge issue for governments, right? Like there's no way to sugarcoat this, but it is. And it's done because of a variety of reasons. And then the EU, they want to try to reduce this for the obvious reasons, right? And Bitcoin may unfortunately fall into the net they're trying to cast. And it could be here that it could be problematic for Bitcoiners, and I'll explain why. An idea is being thrown out there. Fortunately, it's been shelved, but it was originally an idea that they were going to say that a €1,000 purchase limit on Bitcoin payments for self-hosted wallets would be in effect. So they were originally talking about a €1,000 limit on Bitcoin payments from self-hosted wallets. That has since been scrapped, but currently there is a limit on this, and I'll explain it in just a second here. If they did have this limit of €1,000, that would essentially make it impossible to exchange your Bitcoin with a business while using your self-hosted wallet that wasn't KYC, because €1,000 is a decent amount of money, but it's getting to be less and less valuable by the day. So that's why I was saying that. But currently there are limits right now, and the limit for cash payments in the EU are €10,000. And they have also banned any anonymous cash payments over €3,000. So there's a difference between the two. There's the cash payments that you could do that you provided identification. You could do that up to €10,000. Or if you haven't provided cash identification, your limit is only €3,000. That's currently in place. This also impacts self-hosted Bitcoin wallets. So you might have an issue moving forward if you try to exceed those limits that is outside these limitations by the EU. And especially if you don't want to give your ID, you're stuck at €3,000. But this is going to be getting worse and worse moving forward. If they're already talking about putting a limit of €1,000 per transaction, that is really, really restrictive in a lot of different ways. And I could see this eventually coming to fruition. And then what stops them 1,000? Why not bring it to 500 or 300? And then it's going to be a cup of coffee, which at that point is going to be €2,500 to buy. But it just goes to show you they have no idea what they're trying to do. But because of all these AML things, Bitcoin is being caught in the crosshairs. And if you have a self-hosted wallet that is not KYC'd, man, you're going to have some problems if you ever try to spend your Bitcoin over there. There's going to be a mass exodus of Bitcoiners from the EU going to other countries that are more pro-Bitcoin. And it's too bad for them, but good for the Bitcoiners.
Okay, so interesting kind of context to put around this. €3,000 as a cash payment is the limit if there's no KYC. You don't have to show ID, all that stuff. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Do you know how many different things that you see sort of in your day-to-day life cost more than €3,000? I'll give you a good example. Here in Dundas, there's a bike shop called Freewheel Cycle, and it's like a bicycle store, pretty high end, but not so high end that it's not always jam-packed on Saturdays when I go downtown. And there's a bunch of bikes in there, Len, that cost more than €3,000.
Look at your car bill is half the price of that. It was
that's right. That's right. You're getting close. You're getting close, right? So if you're talking about stuff that you could potentially get on Kijiji, now I'm not recommending that you go spend, the €3,000 or equivalent in Canadian dollars on Kijiji. It's dicey to say the least. But the point is that the laws are not keeping up with inflation on one side, and then on the other side, you're really starting to see a crackdown here on a lot of different fronts. I think you may have seen the story that social media posts in Canada, the United States now starting to be kind of aggregated and scraped for data. And, you see the banks now talking about making sure that you're not falling victim to fraud when you send money to places like Bull Bitcoin or ShakePay or Bitcoin Well or whatever. Everyone seems to want to have a hand in what you're doing. But when I look at what the PBO says, for example, about what's going on here with some government spending, they don't seem to have a full picture all the time. And I don't know, is that fair? It's something to consider at least, I think. And it's, kind of frustrating as a citizen and an individual that it seems like an awful lot of resources here and in the States and in major European countries, awful lot of resources being dedicated to make sure that I'm not doing anything, not illegal, but not doing anything that someone might consider to be suspicious in my day-to-day life, especially as it comes to cash payments and spending. But there's not really the same amount of resources being given to other things of that nature. Isn't that that's frustrating to me. I don't really like that. And I don't think anyone should like it. Honestly, it should worry you a bit that this is the direction things are going. And I'll, beat a dead horse here a little bit, but what does the sovereign individual say? As the need for tax receipts increases, as the likelihood that capital flees jurisdictions where tax laws are unfavorable or economic conditions are worsening or whatever, you're going to see more stuff like this, because I think at the end of the day, it's getting harder to make the argument that there's not at least some possibility that what's really being looked at here is, where are you going with your money and why are you not spending it here? Where are you going with the money and why is it not being spent in a way that's easy to tax? Where are you going with all these things? And that book has proven to be pretty prophetic in a lot of ways. And it seems to me that it's becoming more so every week we do this show. We talk about something else that's covered in that book. And I don't know. To me, this is a bit worrying. And it's something that Bitcoin, I think, maybe doesn't try and solve directly. Bitcoin obviously very transparent when you're on chain, but it's hard when everybody is using something like Bitcoin to enforce some of these rules, KYC, AML, anonymous payments, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, the question really for modern citizens and modern governments to tackle together, in harmony, in my opinion, at least that should be the first try, is where's the line for privacy? And I think the line for privacy, when it comes to that debate and that argument, you should always err on more privacy as opposed to less. We're not doing that, and that should be concerning for everybody.
So that's KYC free and running your own node, shit like that. Those are the ways to go. In terms of Western nations which are supportive to Bitcoiners, at least as a user,
okay,
I'm talking about like mining, whatever. It seems that the EU and Britain are the worst.
They have a bone to pick. European countries and UK.
Yeah, the UK, I think they've banned, for instance, ATMs, Bitcoin ATMs. And remember, they even banned advertisements related to Bitcoin.
I believe so. There was remember there was talk recently. I mean, again, it's crazy that we're talking about 3 years worth of backstories here, but it was fairly recently, like the last 6 months. I think we talked about how there was a bank who in the UK or one of the other European countries basically just told their customers, like, we're not going to transfer to crypto exchanges anymore. You have to find a new bank. Yeah.
Because like they limited, I think, to $10,000 or something like that per month.
Yeah.
I don't know what the number is. Something. That those countries there, so everything in the EU and also Britain seems to be like the worst. Canada, United States, as a user, seems to be much, much better
so far.
But it's luckily we're.
Do you expect it to continue though? Really? Like this? I mean, this is a bit far afoot from the question, but do you expect it that directionally, which I always talk about on the show, like you have to ask yourself, what's going to push you into a place where you have to take action directionally? Are we headed that way, or are we like? I think if anything, we're getting there faster and faster, not slower and slower. And you see this more and more with these types of laws and the way. I think the other thing that's even maybe more concerning to me, Len, is like old laws generously interpreted, I should say, to fit Bitcoin into these cages, literally and figuratively, where it's really under tight surveillance, right? And the expectation is that it just becomes so cumbersome for you to use it. You're talking about collecting the addresses and social insurance numbers of people you're sending Bitcoin to or whatever. Like, no one's fucking doing that. But that might be the expectation at some point. It's kind of all headed that direction. So I think the other question people have to ask themselves is, what's the thing that's going to push you into a position where you have to decide whether you want to stay or go, whether you want to contribute and try and fix things, or whether this is a lost cause. A lot of smart people are going to start asking themselves that in the next 5 years, 3 years, 10 years, I don't know, some period, but it's definitely coming, I think. And I don't know where I come down on all this. In
terms of the privacy side, I think we're going to lose out. I have a sneaky suspicion.
So how's that look?
Well, out of the EU, they'll probably request, if you're going to spend Bitcoin, to provide some identification to, make it that, you're giving up your ID and they're
and they can identify that wallet, right? They can identify,
But on the flip side too, there's another way they could also approach this. Even by doing that, I don't know if they'll do this, but maybe make it change the way the tax reporting is required for spending your Bitcoin, lower the capital gains on the, what you're able to be taxed on, or maybe eliminate it entirely. I'm not sure which of the two, but by doing that, you can encourage people to start spending it. maybe even capture some taxes from that.
This is interesting, right? So I'm glad you brought this up. This idea that the really government should be encouraging Bitcoin's use to get a handle on where things are on the network. That's an interesting theory, right? You're kind of touching on that. I think I like that. That's a good point.
I'm also even thinking of taxation purposes, because let's be honest, all governments are starved for cash or funds, right? And one way to get a new stream of revenue would be to get it from, say, the Bitcoin community, encourage them to spend and take a smaller percentage of taxes. And so, they'd spend it instead of, the capital gains, which is somewhere around 50% of the whatever you've made. I think that's whatever the heck it is.
Yeah, it's a high number. Anyway.
Reduce it to 1 or 2% or 5% on top of the sales tax.
Floyd Marinescu, who's coming on in May, is a big proponent of UBI and land value tax. And I've been listening to his stuff the last, I don't know, month or so when I have time, just to kind of like prepare for that interview. And he's got some good ideas about this kind of like micro taxing and eliminating stuff like income tax, for example, eliminating stuff like property tax, eliminating all these things and fixing it with taxes that make more sense and are more incentive driven in terms of getting better outcomes for everybody, as opposed to, and it's funny, man, like you're kind of laughing because I think both of us think
Floyd,
UBI, UBI is like, it's like a dead idea, right? But I gotta be honest, Len, the way he describes it, I've never heard anyone make the case for UBI as convincingly as he does. And the land value tax is another one that I think there's a lot more in common with the way you and me think than you might imagine at first glance. And I'm looking forward to that show because I think that, even you just brought it up, right? Like these, taxing little bits on things and maybe alleviating some of the larger kind of cap gains and stuff like that. That's an idea he shares with you. And you didn't know that, but you guys are, marching on the same banner there a little bit.
I'm trying to reduce the taxation that it currently exists, or even eliminate it, one or the two. Just try to encourage the use of it, and in that way you can start capturing a new stream of revenue as a result. And it could be a net gain, even though it's significantly less. Because I'll be perfectly honest, one of the things that's preventing me from spending it en masse is the reporting requirements.
It's forced HODL, right? Everyone's just getting rich because they have no choice.
Yeah. Until laws change or I relocate to a jurisdiction that doesn't have this. I'm kind of stuck. I mean, it's not a bad position.
What's on your short list? Should we talk to Katie and Jessica Hodler about passports or what?
I'm fine. I think I'm good. But I think through all this, there's transition to the last story. We're getting a little bit
sure.
Yeah. There's one last story. It's a good one because good transition from the last one. BISQ 2.0, or aka BISQ 2.
Did you try it?
Rolled out. You heard about this?
Did you try it?
Yeah, I did. Very briefly.
How sick is that? The interface is fucking awesome. It is awesome.
Neat. There's still, I couldn't find a willing match. So I'll get to that. So
it's early. But anyway.
It's very early. So BISQ 2 rolled out, and there's some nice improvements that come along with it. Now, people who are unaware, what is BISQ? It's a decentralized exchange, a user to user, peer-to-peer type exchange, and it offers kyc-free Bitcoin. And BISQ 2.0 or BISQ 2 is now going to offer a more friendly, more flexible, and more private way of doing so. It includes support right off the bat for Tor and other privacy networks. Not only that, you could also have multiple identities rather than just a single identity in the original BISQ. So if you could have different identities and you could transact different, so it gives you a lot of different ways to cover the track, so to speak. And BISQ 2 is not just simply patching the old code and coming out with something new. No, this is an entirely new code base built entirely from scratch, from the ground up. So good for them for doing this. And it comes with a whole new user interface as well. As you were talking about, it looks slick. It sounds like you tried it out, which is pretty cool. And so there's going to be some new trade protocols that are going to be provided, and each providing a different level of security, privacy, speed, cost, and convenience. So you could pick and choose what works best for you for your transaction. You can give a little bit of security up for speed, or give a little bit of convenience up for privacy, whatever the heck. There's so many different options here that's going to be available. But right off the bat, there's going to be BISQ Easy. That's something which is good for novices, and security as well. The security, if you want to look a little bit further, this is initially based off the seller's reputation. So you have to trust that the seller's reputation is correct, and that's going to be the level of security that you're going to be dealing with. In terms of BISQ Easy, it's going to be easier to on-ramp as compared to BISQ that we know already have used to this point. And they're also going to be offering sorry, they are going to be offering BISQ to fiat trading through BISQ Easy. Not only that, there'll be BISQ to fiat trading through BISQ Multisig coming Q3 2024, Q4 2024, Lightning to Bitcoin trading, that's with submarine swaps, and Q2 2025, Lightning to fiat trading. So you're going to be able to do Lightning to Bitcoin very soon, and then Lightning to fiat, which is really cool. BISQ 1 is still going to be operated and fully maintained for the time being, but this will eventually end once the beta release phase for BISQ 2 ends. So if you're a BISQ 1 user, just note that it's going to be fully maintained, at least for the period of time, and then they're going to start phasing that out. So there you go. BISQ 2 is released. It's live. I've tried it out. I tried to do some buys. I could not find anybody that was able to meet my demands. Like I was putting in what was my threshold to buy. I tried even the United States and Canada, nothing. It's still relatively new, so there's probably very few users using it, but really cool stuff. The only downside to this, I'll say, is there's going to be some shitcoin support moving forward. Stuff that is with Bitcoin in its name, you can figure out what I'm trying to say, but also Monero support is going to be included in the future. So that's the only downside from this.
It is a downside, but like I said before, I think on this show, we have to figure out how to do anonymous trading, like P2P, which is not always the easiest thing. So as a stopgap, I'm okay with that. Fine, no problem. It's not as much of a shitcoin as all this other garbage out there. I'm happy to see that. If that's one they want to use, whatever. This easy mode thing, Len, is the innovation, from what I understand. And like you, it was difficult to find a partner, but there is kind of this neat group chat feature in there where you can talk to people about what you're seeing as far as the order books and the conversion rate and stuff like that. It's pretty neat, I have to say. And I messed around with BISQ a little bit in like 2021 maybe, or 2020, when like during COVID, when everyone was just like bored at home, and I was just doing nothing but listening to Bitcoin podcasts all day and having my first beer at 4:00. Yeah, it's not much else going on. And so I was doing some of that stuff and messing around with it. I always thought it was pretty cool, but didn't really have a use for it. Now, here we are 4 years later, and we just finished talking about how important it's going to be to try and maintain anonymity and protect your privacy and things like this. It's another good tool. So my question for you is, how long until this comes under the crosshairs of a major first world government?
It may, but what could you stop? Like, what's that, BitTorrent or whatever it's, I forget the name.
BitTorrent, yeah.
Because it's peer-to-peer, it's impossible to stop. It's not like Napster, which is centralized, doing essentially the same thing, sharing files, but that was uncentrally. Didn't like it, you could stop it because it's centralized. Yeah. It's a peer-to-peer service like this. It may come under the crosshairs of governments, but what can be done? Just like Bitcoin, what can be done? Yeah. You may say you're going to ban it, you may say we're going to stop it, but if the internet operates, this could operate on the internet, and it could be done anonymously.
I love it. I think this is great. I think it's fantastic. I love seeing this stuff. We may as well, do this on the air. Should we invite the BISQ guys on? I think we should, right?
I'd love to
from the dev team. Yeah, absolutely. I think it'd be a good show. So we'll do that. That's it for the Bitcoin stories. If you are on audio, see you tomorrow. If you are on video, do nothing. Just sit there and wait. And through the magic of video, we will continue to the next episode. Till then, take care of yourself.
Don't be a cuck.
1 hour, 3 minutes, 5 seconds. Where do you want to go next? What's next on your list here? And other notable stories.
Notable stories. We'll talk about credit card debt. So credit card debt. We talk about this fucking topic all the time. Credit card debt, it's increasing at a faster pace than it was experienced in 2008 financial crisis. This makes sense given that everything is costing more, including debt, but it isn't giving me confidence that we're trending in the right direction. And in terms of scale, credit card debt is up 40% in the United States in 3 years. 3 years, 40%.
That's almost as good as Nvidia.
Nvidia's was better than that.
It's fucking way better. It's hammering. I'm just kidding. But anyway, go ahead.
But another problem is the average interest rate currently on credit card debt stands around 22%. This is much higher than previous years, and it's all thanks to the Federal Reserve that they've hiked rates so much in the past little while. And there are people out there, they have and are still funding a lifestyle they can't afford, and they're using credit card to do it. Now, I'm going to give you a case in point here, Joey.
Okay.
Newlyweds, Amy, 28, Tori, 27.
Okay.
They bought a house.
Yeah.
Can't blame them. You got to live somewhere. You can't live in Bitcoin, so they bought it. That's fine. But they also made plans to have what they called a quote unquote dream wedding.
Oh boy.
Financial planners, they are not. They made the moves. Also, they made a decision to go to Greece on their honeymoon, and maybe they should take a few lessons from the Greek government, because remember how they're
austerity.
Yeah, but so they've racked up some $44,000 in credit card debt along the way.
No, Len, on the wedding?
Between the wedding and the honeymoon.
Oh,
their
man.
dream wedding and this honeymoon trip. So between that and the higher than planned mortgage payments, they're effectively broke. So many people are like this. They just fund a lifestyle with credit card, tack it on, and what are they going to do? Default or just carry this for perpetuity. And this is the reality. And then once rates go a little bit lower, because they will eventually get lower, we'll talk about that in just a little bit, then there's going to be more appetite to add even more to the credit card debt, because you can have more on it. This is a cycle that will never fucking end, but here we are.
Keeping up with the Joneses has become this toxic, just like metastasized cancer in society. Has it not? Like everybody I know, I shouldn't say everybody I know, because the answer is truthfully very few people I know do this, but a lot of people on social media who I'm like tangentially friends with, or like, you know, made friends with over the years and don't see too often anymore. These people are spending money on all kinds of shit, and I know they don't have the money. I know they don't. And I won't say who, but I had a guest on the show, you know, in the last year, I'll say, and was talking to this guest before we went on air. And we were just kind of going back and forth and bullshitting about why people in our lives don't have Bitcoin. And at the same time, we both said the reason that people in our lives aren't buying Bitcoin isn't because they don't get it or because they don't want it. It's because they say they have money to invest and they just actually don't. They don't have the money. And a lot of people, I think, are doing this. You can fake having the money when it comes to going for dinner or buying a new car or whatever, but you can't do it when it comes to buying Bitcoin. Why? Because if you don't have the money, then no exchange is taking your credit card anymore, right? It's like a 30% bump. It's the cash advance fee, I think, in a lot of places now. So you can't fake it. The same way you can't fake buying, you know, a portfolio of ETFs or Nvidia or whatever on your credit card, because exchanges and brokers won't take credit. They need cash. They need, you know, something that doesn't carry that risk and isn't a loan product. I think you're going to start seeing a lot more, like you think, of credit card spending in the next few years, because prices are going crazy. Wages are not keeping up, and everybody wants to keep up with the Joneses, as well as keeping this sort of, you know, lifestyle they think that they're earning enough to have and they've become accustomed to, but really neither is true. I don't know if you saw in Australia, Len, but speaking of kind of poor economic policy, our Commonwealth brothers and sisters over there proposing a minimum wage that matches and stays in lockstep with inflation.
We kind of have that in Ontario.
Yeah, not like that. Not like that. Like that's how you get wage price spirals, and these things just mount and mount and mount, and more people spending on credit products to try and keep their ducks in a row, or what they perceive as their ducks in a row. So I don't look forward to the eventual collapse of all these things, but at this point, I think it's safe to say that it's coming, right? I think it's going to be a significant collapse in the Canadian economy. I think it's going to be a significant collapse in the American economy. The only place to hide is going to be Nvidia, Bitcoin, and Canadian single-family homes. That's it. Everything else is going to zero, I'm pretty sure. So, you know, buckle up for the ride. But really, like, if you have friends like this, what do you say to them? I don't even know what you would say to somebody like this. Like, hey, buddy, maybe don't have, you know, lobster and shrimp every day.
There's nothing to say. There's an ask. You ask if they could help pay your lifestyle as well. So they're clearly wanting to put as much debt on the books as possible. Hey, do you want to go on a group trip together? Oh, I don't have the money. Do you want to fund me? I'll give it to you.
Nice.
Never give it.
Nice.
That's the way to do it. Take advantage, right? Go to the Caribbean or something and just fucking live it up.
Oh man, I don't know, buddy. We're in trouble here. Listen, Bitcoin is a life raft in a lot of ways. One is just this financial savings tool, obviously, that, you know, you and I and people listening, watching feel good about, but it's also a life raft in terms of sanity. I'm completely unbothered by this kind of thing. And I just sit back and watch and relax and try and live well, right? That's all you can do, and stay within your means and life will be easier for you for sure. You may not have all the shiniest, fanciest stuff. You may be driving 20-year-old cars, 25-year-old cars like Len and I, but you'll sleep easy. That's really more important than anything else, man. There's nothing else to life besides sleeping easy. That's the key thing for everybody.
I have the Federal Reserve story next. I have a ton of notable stories. You want to talk about them?
We do. You pick, buddy. You're in charge. You're steering the ship. I'm just mopping the deck here.
All right, because fuck them. Fuck the Federal Reserve. California, they keep delivering the goods though, because a new law.
We have started another segment here. California notable stories.
This is an example of why, because they have a law there. It's a new law that prevents police from posting pictures, including the face of captured suspects.
I love it.
So police are being creative over there when they're posting pictures on social media, and they're putting the Lego heads over the heads of the suspects.
So good.
And this is a way to protect the IDs and adhere to law. But not only that, I've even seen one picture where they pasted a Barbie head over a woman that was captured, and another one I saw, somebody was wearing a Shrek shirt, so they put Shrek's head on top of the suspect's head. This is top-notch clown stuff, man. But yeah, Lego stuff. But it's fucking great. I love it. But I'm not sure if you want to add anything to that.
I gotta share. We have to share a link, an example of this. I don't actually see it here. Oh, I do see one here. This is a good one. It's too many ads on this fucking page. Anyway, just look up California Lego heads and have a laugh, because it's very notable what they're doing over there. Isn't it funny? I always laugh. And like, I get that there's people who twist up, crime statistics to make it like racial or whatever. You're always going to have people like that. But one thing I've noticed in the last year or so is there's like an active campaign to not actually be able to identify any criminals if you see them in the street. Like whether it's California or Toronto or wherever, it's always the same. Like, here's the grainy surveillance footage, that this guy took with his Ring camera. There's a piece of Scotch tape over the camera for all intents and purposes. It's so grainy and blurry. And then it's like, here's the suspect. You can't see him. They don't give any identifying markers about him. I'm not just talking about skin color. I'm talking about like, what color eyes does this guy have? Like, does he have any tattoos? Instead, they tell you, yeah, we're looking for a guy who's wearing a red baseball cap, a black hoodie, and a pair of jeans.
Oh, I know him.
Buddy, that was last week. I'm assuming he's got to change of clothes. Like, what are we talking about now? I can't even see the guy's face. So I got to hear what he was wearing at the time of the crime. And I can't see his face because he put a Lego head on him. Who am I looking for? It's truly a needle in a haystack. And I look at this stuff and I just laugh. What else are you supposed to do? There's nothing else you can do. I'm looking for a Lego man wearing clothes from last week. Good luck. Good luck, everyone. Have fun finding that guy.
Give cops nothing to deal with.
It's unreal.
Right?
It is unreal.
Stop or I'll yell. Oh, please. It's $1.2 trillion, Joey.
Yeah. Great show note, by the way. When I got the description from the website for the video, it just says $1.2 trillion.
$1.2 trillion. What else could you say? This is fucked up on two different levels, by the way.
Okay.
So the first one is, this was needed to avoid the government shutdown. Because apparently the government was running out of money and they needed this infusion of cash to keep the lights on. But this will only keep the lights on until October. So $1.2 trillion will only carry this baby for another 6 to 7 months, to put things in perspective. The second thing, which is fucked up, I thought we were done with this thing. I thought the debt ceiling was done, temporarily eliminated. What the fuck is going on? Why do they need this extra money? Like, don't they just go ahead, do it, and don't make any hoopla about it? They have the ability just to go ahead and add fucking money to the deficit, which tax onto the debt. Like, what the fuck? 1.2 trillion, man. Like, it's an enormous amount of money, and we're just talking about it like it's nothing. Never will this shit be paid back. Never.
I'm looking for a tweet I just saw the other day from some self-important member of Congress in the States talking about how they stayed up until 2 a.m. to pass this bill to keep the government from shutting down, as if that's like some kind of thing to be proud of. The bill itself is like, it is biblical in size. The thing is literally thousands of pages. There's no way anybody could read it, like all the legislation that passes over there. And in other places, probably here, it's the same story. I'm not sure. But if I had to guess, it's probably close. No one's reading this stuff. It's all written by aides and lobbyists. None of the congressional representatives or senators or senator staffers are reading this stuff. No one knows what's in it. It's literally just nothing but pork and, money for every special cause under the sun. The funny thing, Len, is in October this time, that's pretty close to another major event. So
that's what it's tied to.
Yeah. So what's the story going to look like in October when the election's coming up? I don't know. Like, is Joe Biden going to get up on stage and talk about how his token's at an all-time high and this is how they're keeping the government open? He's cashing in his Biden on Solana gains. He's up 1,000,000% in the last 6 months. We're gonna fund the government on my shitcoin gains. You're welcome.
There are some strange ones, and there's one I don't even say it that's making fun of.
No, Len, don't even bring
it.
Okay, listen,
for sure.
If people want to go look at the Solana token names, like there's accounts on Twitter that have them.
For a Liz,
they're insane. They are truly insane.
Like,
yeah,
fuck. Anyways,
not good.
Let's
Not
talk about those shitcoins. Let's move to Notable North.
Sure.
Remember, we were talking about cars earlier in the show. Remember, there was a time when Kia was synonymous with affordability.
Yeah.
Right. Like, someone posted on Twitter or X, picture of their payments on a Kia car. This is the Kia EV9.
Oh no.
This person financed it. Remember, this is a Kia. $1,800 a month.
No.
Finance charges of $42,000. Interest rates over 10%. Total cost $152,000. $152,000 finance for a fucking Kia. $1,800 a month. And I'm not trying to shit on Kia, right? Like, they make good cars, but at $152,000, I'd rather go buy a different car. Or better yet, 152 late 90 beige Corollas, one for every day of the week for the next 5 to 6 months. But that's just me. What the fuck do I know? That goes to show you how far, like, how devalued the dollar is, but also that overpriced. It's just craziness for these EVs, and we're going to be forced to buy it in the next 10 years if things play out the way they
allegedly.
Yeah, I mean, until things change, I'm going to say that's the way it's going to be. Man, nobody's going to be fucking driving moving forward, but whatever.
How do you think that person justifies the payment? Like, what was the tweet like? Was it like a sour tweet? Was it just here's something I saw at a friend's house on the fridge when they weren't paying attention? I took a picture of it. Like, what did the tweet look like in terms of, temperament? Good or like, I can't wait for you to see the inside of my new Kia. It's got an all cloth interior.
No, I say Table Salt was the guy that.
I love that. I love that account. I love that account.
Provided it to him, and he was saying, "Look, $42,000 in interest and $1,800 a month in financing for a Kia EV," and it shows you the cost of everything. Like, incredible. The odometer only had 22 kilometers when they first picked it up, so they weren't joyriding with it. This guy is basically brand new, but 10%, over 10% annual interest rates on this, like $45,000.
That's insane.
In finance charges. Like, that's like, 50 years ago, like, that was a house.
Yeah. Buying a car is weird, right? Like, my wife and I'll get into Smithside baseball here. We financed, I think the minimum allowable, because you get a discount if you finance whatever the percentage. I think you had to finance 60% of the total price. But let me tell you something, okay? If you think the guys giving the disclaimers at the end of Cialis commercials are talking fast, wait until you see the speed at which the back office finance guy talks to you about your loan. There's a lot of stuff getting said and a lot of papers they're trying to get you to sign pretty quickly on stuff like, when can you pay the loan? Is the loan open or closed? Is there a penalty for lump sum? Blah, blah, blah. And if you don't pay attention to all that stuff, you end up with this. You end up with huge amounts of fees, tons of interest payments, a car that, you thought, I can't afford a $50,000 car. I'll just buy a $30,000 car. That turns out to be worth $150,000 after 5 or 7 years, right? How long's the AM on the loan? Do you know?
No, it does not say.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually crazy that people buy cars without looking at this stuff. Like,
what's the maximum now, by the way, for financing? Is it 8 years or?
I know of somebody who has a 7-year loan on a car. But
that's
not
the longest I've ever heard. They financed it for over 7 years. Like, that's
financed over 7. Yeah, financed over 7.
I thought it could have been a little bit longer, but that's a long time. Imagine having
seven's too long. Like, what is the signpost, right? Like, if you're doing a 7-year AM on a car, you can't afford the car. I mean, isn't that the story? Like, if it takes you, more than a year or 2 years or whatever to pay off a car, like, you
can't believe I'm going to say this, but if
I've never bought a car that's like been a loan. This is the car we just financed. Is the first car my wife and I have bought and financed at any level. So I don't know like what the expectation is, but it can't be fucking 7 years, can it? There's no way.
Well, again, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but if interest rates are super low and you're able to get either through the dealership or through somewhere else,
if you lock for 7, sure, different story.
and it's like,
yes,
what, a quarter or a 0.5%.
Yeah.
Then I could say, okay, as long as you're diligent, right? You're not going up because at the 6th year, that car is going to be a little bit more costly to maintain, and you still have to deal with the maintenance of that plus the cost that you have to pay back for the financing of it at that time. But that I can see those are situational though. The way it is right now, the way everything is set up, I don't know.
No, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
That's why used cars cost so much. There's a lot of demand for it because that's what people can afford.
It's funny. Like the thing is, like if you don't take care of it, I'm trying to think about what the deal was we got. I think we paid. What was that car worth? It was 30,000 and change all in. This is like some quick JT back in the napkin math here. Not that JT, this JT. I think the deal was if you finance, you immediately get $2,000 off, but you had to finance 60% of the ticket price. So I got to think like if I am not diligent with the loan and it does take me, let's say I make the payment, I think the payment's like a couple $100 every 2 weeks. I forget what it is, but if you don't pay the lump sum out and you pay interest on the rest of the loan, they for sure get that 2,000 back and more, right? It's just because people think in the now all the time and can't figure out like, oh, that $2,000 isn't that much if I can't pay the loan off without the interest payment. If the loan, like for us, I think the loan opens at 6 months, right? So at 6 months, I can pay the whole thing and be done with the car. So you get the 2,000 plus you don't pay the interest. But if you couldn't do that, then you're in a bit of trouble, right? And I think that's where people come down a lot of the time. You and me talk about this all the time, and Bitcoiners notice this more in their lives and in the lives of people that they're close to. There's no future in the decision making of a lot of people, right? And you see that in a lot of places. We don't often talk about car financing, but this is a good example of exactly that line of thinking, in my view.
Yeah, I have nothing to say. Obviously, I drive an old car, so I have very little experience.
Dave Bacon in the chat saying it's 96 months is the standard AM. That's a lot, or longest AM. That's a lot. That's 8 years. That's
people are getting mortgages for 30 years in the States.
Yeah, I guess.
Granted, you're living in that house, and you'll probably be there. At the
in Canada, though, you could be. You get an 8-year AM. You might be living in your car. So
you could get a 10-year mortgage here in Canada.
That's no, I mean like car loan, 8-year car loan. You could be living in your car.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
that
is true. Yeah,
cool.
Hopefully, it's going to keep you warm. But Canadian inflation numbers came in.
Love it.
At 2.8% for the month of February. This is according to StatsCan. And instead of talking about the specifics about this rate change, Joy, let's talk about the formula to get it.
I love it. I'm dying to hear if you knock this one out of the park. I think you're going to.
No, I'm going to be very, very brief on this guy because there was a couple of stories. The first one is from the northernaccount.ca. They mentioned that Canadian banks are pushing for the Bank of Canada to remove shelter costs from the CPI. It's not just them saying it too, because the Globe and Mail also came out with a piece called "It's Time for the Bank of Canada to Kick Shelter Inflation to the Curb." And in it, they're saying that the shelter inflation is skewing the big picture. This is from the Globe and Mail. They're saying, well, it's known that rent and mortgages are skyrocketing, and it's due to a number of different factors, right? And this is what they're saying is fucking up with the CPI. And if you take this out of the equation, the actual peg year-over-year inflation is at a mere 1.3%, well below the Bank of Canada's 2% target. So you're taking away something. Maybe it's better if we start measuring inflation that is tied to grass clippings in the summertime and the snow we get in the wintertime, because it's abundant then. Why not use that as a way to keep inflation in check? How the fuck could you remove housing and say this is not going to be counted as part of the CPI? It's one of the most important things. That food, transportation, can you get around any of that? Those are like the three staples.
They're trying, right? They're trying. Supercore in the States excludes food, shelter, and fuel. So they rolled that stat out last year-ish. And the reason you don't hear about that in the States anymore is because even Supercore is ticking up. So
imagine that.
It's crazy. On this story, I wrote about this in the research roundup, first ever CBP research roundup, which you should read if you haven't already. It's on our website. Over the years, people have asked us, like, can you share the research you do? I'm not going to go through all my notes and all the reading because I don't write everything down, number one.
But you provided links.
Yeah, I did. There's links and everything. And we stopped adding links to the show notes. I'm not going to start putting them in again. It's just too much now.
But you added it in with that piece you wrote up.
The piece I wrote up has links. Yeah. So in addition to yours, National Bank had a report on March 19th that says all provinces have CPI X shelter under 2%. Whoop-de-doo. And they also said that, quote, inflation is contaminating inflation measures. Or sorry, shelter is contaminating inflation measures. I made a mistake in my own writing here. And
TD also said something.
TD did it last month. Yeah. You're seeing this more and more. And, of course, CPI is very low if you exclude everything people actually need and use. But I think the bigger story here is that there's clearly pressure from banks, media orgs, which are, as we know, at this point, like potentially an arm of the government for some messaging. And I think from people broadly, like they're tired of paying all this money on shelter and interest, and they want the bank to lower the rate. The question is, will the bank do it? I continue to think the answer is yes. Not because they should, but because it's going to be politically untenable not to. There's 60% of mortgages still to roll over in this year and the remainder of this year and next year. All of those mortgages will have been 2020 lock-ins where the rate was 1% or 1.25% or 1.5%, depending on where you ended up locking in and which institution you use and for how long, blah, blah, blah. But are all those people going to go from paying 1 to 5? I doubt it. Or 6, whatever our rate is. I can't remember what our federal rate is, but is it really going to happen? I don't know. Other thing to keep in mind as far as cuts, Switzerland did a surprise cut last week. And there's a lot of people in the economic space, some from the big four banks here in Canada, others on Twitter, guys like Bianco, Gunlock, saying that maybe this is the beginning of the rate cut cycle. And if you look at how synchronized the actions have been in central banking around the world since COVID, there's no really reason to think that they're not going to start cutting together when they've basically raised and held together as well. And the messaging was pretty consistent too. The only big question is, in my view, and there's a lot of other people who think this, is Powell more concerned about protecting the dollar than he is about anything else? I don't know. But we're going to find out in the next little while. If they hang in and they don't raise, or they don't cut, I should say, it'll make his intentions very clear. But all these elections this year, as we've talked about in the past, 2024, a huge year for elections in modern democracies. All this pain on the retail side, in housing, in shelter, in energy. It's easy to say that it's unprecedented because it's kind of thrown around all the time. People bandy about that, pretty often. But I think we've never seen anything like this before, have we? I'm not a historian, but in my kind of cruising around the internet doing research for the show and whatnot, I don't see anything like this in the past. So where are they going to land? I don't know. But something has got to give here pretty soon. Pressure is mounting. Canada, US, everywhere.
What has given are the fries that you get at a Vancouver Canucks game. There's a woman that went to the Canucks game and ordered some fries over there, and she paid over $10 Canadian, and in that it was over $10 Canadian, 15 fries.
It was like $13, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's like almost $1 a fry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. So yeah, shrinkflation is happening everywhere, including at the Vancouver Canucks games. Don't go see them. There's no Pavel Bure. What's the use of watching them? So there you go. It's a tough world out there for the fry lovers out there, because you're gonna be paying through the nose to eat and watch your hockey at the same time.
For sure. You can't spell Canuck without cuck. So try and find somewhere else to spend your money.
That is true. That's see this story from National Post. This is a great story where they talk about secret RCMP report warns that Canadians may revolt once they realize how broke they are. I can't say this without laughing.
It's unbelievable. Is this not unbelievable? This is, honest to God, unbelievable stuff. It's completely crazy that this is out there.
So yeah, so people are going to revolt once they figure out how broke they fucking are. And because they're saying it's a hopeless economic situation, and it's going to cause people to raise their pitchforks and their torches, because they're going to realize they have fucking nothing and they have no hope in hell. Because they're saying, for example, Canadians under the age of 35 are what they say unlikely ever to be able to buy a place to live.
Yes.
So they're going to be renters for life, essentially. And it's exactly the case, because I don't know how anybody just coming up through the regular way of just going to school and coming out, getting a job without significant help from somebody, it's impossible to get a house unless you get a high paying job. And the report apparently mentions people will be disillusioned with their government, which the author chalks up to mostly as misinformation, conspiracy theories, and paranoia. Now, on top of that, Joey, I just got to add, because somebody just added this on one of our chats. I never heard about this, but apparently StatsCan is using something called meltwater. They've been using this for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
And they're using this meltwater for social trend monitoring tool. And they're saying that they're using to search and monitor and analyze social media and traditional media trends and conversations on issues and topics relevant to the agency's mandate. That's interesting that you're using this.
Interesting is one word. Yeah, that's a good word.
Yeah, so there you go. So
it's notable. I would say it's notable.
Very notable. Yeah. So there you go. You have StatsCan using meltwater to check our social media posts and everything along those lines. And you also have the RCMP having secret documents saying that people are going to potentially revolt once they realize how broke we are. So we can't really say anything on Twitter. But man, oh man, it's just fucked up times.
Algorithm ghetto, right? Like Hervoye Morich says. Len, you know, there's not really much that we can say, right? I mean, we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place here.
Yeah, you can say that.
I don't know what to add except that, you know, I didn't write the report that said Canadians are going to revolt when they realize how broke they are. The RCMP wrote that. And
yeah, I didn't. It.
Yeah, and I didn't write that it's, you know, due to misinformation. Somebody else did. I would argue that all the other stories that the RCMP has been a part of in the last few years, and police force has been a part of in the last few years, and telling people that leaving their keys at the door is a good idea so you don't get murdered in your own home. You know, I don't think that was misinformation. I saw that video live and direct. I think that was actually said. I walk by the tent cities where violent crime is high and drug use is high and violence is high. I walk by that all the time. I walk by, or I read stories where the tax money, and like I tweeted this the other day, but I'll repeat it here for people who haven't seen it. I read the stories where the tax money I'm told is going to help prevent violence and criminal activity doesn't do that, but rather I'm going to be subjected to a mandatory breathalyzer test when I get pulled over for having my signal out because I needed milk or cat food or baby formula late at night and couldn't change my light. Everyone sees this. The only question is, how long are people going to stand for it? And it sounds like our national police force thinks the answer may be not too much longer. So what's the alternative here? We got to either fix the living situation for people or crack down and make sure no one revolts. It's going to be harder to do the latter, and it's even more difficult to do the former. So where do we land? Go look around and see what the societal results are in terms of, you know, cohesion when family formation is impossible, when people can't live alone and find their own kind of living space, when they can't get jobs and can't buy food and can't enjoy the simple things in life. What happens? Well, first, what happens is there's a change in the definition of, you know, living, which we've seen, right? The cost of living is this like vacuous term where living is a variable thing. That's changed a lot. You know, we've kind of joked about how living used to be a picket fence, a dog, 2 kids, time to contribute to your community. Now it's going home, microwaving your dinner, jerking off, turning on Netflix, and going back to your wage cuck job the next morning, which you hate, with people you don't have anything in common with and don't want to work there. I'll stop there, but you can fill in the rest. You know, you're a creative person, listener, viewer. It's a difficult thing to come back from. And it's not just Len and I that think this, it's the RCMP. So make of this what you will. That's all.
Toronto.
Brain tax. I love that. Is this not the most incredible fucking thing you've ever heard?
Well, apparently this isn't unprecedented because
I know
Mississauga has this right now. So if you live in Mississauga, from what I understand, could be wrong, but you already have this rain tax. It's really, they call it a storm water charge. So people living in Toronto, this is what you're going to be dealing with moving forward if this passes. This is a proposed fee structure that will be based on the amount of impermeable surface area on a property, such as a roof, driveway, and parking lot. And all this contributes to the runoff during a rainfall event. And because the systems are being overwhelmed when there are storms, they are going to be charging people based off that, and they're going to hopefully use that money to earmark to repair or improve the pipes and so forth. Because let's be honest, infrastructure in Canada as a whole, generally it's aging.
It's everywhere. US same thing. Europe same thing. It's all these places.
Yeah. So this is going to need to be improved, modernized, updated, you name it, but it's costly to do so. In fact, I'm going into the weeds here. Wasn't that Biden act that he passed to reduce inflation? There was some funny name with it. They were going to be spending a great deal of money on infrastructure within the United States, like trillions of dollars. I think that's what that bill was, but that's a topic for another time. But either way, if you're interested about this, Toronto is going to be holding virtual meetings regarding this stormwater charge, and they're planning this for April the 8th, April 11th, April 16th, and you can register online if you wish to attend.
We gotta go. We gotta stream it, and we gotta do live reactions. We have to do this. I think we should do a show. Can we do this?
So 8th, April 8th, Monday, we can't. 11th is a Thursday, and then 16th is a Tuesday. I think maybe if you want to do it, personally, the 16th works best for me.
It's a Thursday?
11th, Tuesday. There's the 11th is the Thursday, and the 16th is a Tuesday. I don't want to do Thursday.
Let's do Tuesday. We'll see what they're like.
So there you go. So we're gonna have a live stream of this.
Gosh, I think. Wait, I might have scheduled an interview for that day. Hold on. I gotta find out.
I gotta check the time. If this could probably gonna be during the daytime too. That's
no way. It'll be at night.
Hang on, I'm trying to take a quick peek at this. This is you know what? I don't know. I have no fucking
business on air.
You can take a survey, by the way, if you want.
Business on air. I would love to stream that meeting and do a live reaction show.
6 to 8 p.m. on all 3 days.
The 16th.
So yeah, 8th,
Plate Liquor's coming on the 16th, so I can't do that day. The 9th is the other day?
No, 8th. That's we're doing the show on that day.
Yeah.
And the 11th, Thursday. Oh, that's a tough day. I mean, I could try. So we'll try for Thursday, April 11th. We'll do this live on the air.
Doesn't have to be fancy. Like I might not even like sit down in this chair. I might like just bring my computer and a camera upstairs and like eat dinner and make fun of these clowns. That sounds like a good idea.
They give the webinar number and webinar password. It's freely available out there. So just show up.
Oh man, there's gonna be so many people there just fucking laughing. Oh my god, isn't it funny? Like you on like the side of the story, you pay taxes to. Okay, so I know this. I won't say how, but it's basically impossible to build anything in Toronto. The number of bylaws and whiny neighbors and NIMBYs, I know somebody who just put an addition on their house, basically a full rebuild of their house. It took like 5 years between the construction, the permitting, the complaining, all this stuff. When they built the, addition or finished the property, they wanted to put in a parking lot, a parking spot, like a driveway, weren't allowed. There's like a regulation or a bylaw that prevents them from doing a driveway. It's too close to the neighbor's lawn or something like that. I don't know. So this person had to put in what they're calling a patio in the backyard, and the driveway that's there, the like drive-through, goes into the backyard so they can park their car in the backyard. When you build a patio, it has to be a certain size. It has to be bigger than a driveway, right? Otherwise, it doesn't count toward whatever bylaw fixture issue is causing that problem in the first place. So now you're telling me that after all the hoops this person had to jump through, they're going to have to pay more because it's impermeable, even though the city told them they couldn't build a driveway. The porch has to be permeable, so you can't, or it has to be isn't permeable, so you got to pay for that. The one that really gets me is the roof.
If you have rain barrels,
what is the city of Toronto suggesting as far as the roof? Like, they want me to put like one of those like grass roofs? Is that what they're asking?
You could just divert it to the grass or into a rain barrel or something else. But even if you have that, they're still going to charge you either way.
I don't get it. That's what I mean. I don't understand.
You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Yeah. What is the ask, right? I don't understand what the ask is. And am I going to get a break on my property taxes and other taxes because presumably whatever I've been paying to maintain the storm drains is not working? Like, am I going to get a break there? No. So like how much of a disaster has this mayor been for Toronto? Like awful. We talked about Yonge and Dundas Square. The cost of that consultation was about $8 million, total waste. They're doing consulting on this now. And by the way, Len, they tried to pass this in 2017. It barely failed in 2017 or 16. I forget which year. So they've tried this before. You mentioned Mississauga has this already. It's not without precedent. They're going to get
this. It looks like Ottawa has something.
They're going to get this. Like it's crazy that this is going on. Why don't people just leave Toronto? Sell your house in Toronto for triple what it's worth. Move to Burlington or Oakville or Hamilton or Dundas or Ancaster, whatever. You know, you live an hour away, I guess, or 45 minutes away if you're close to the 403. But man, your life would just be so much better, honestly, than living in one of these other, you know, places that are run by people who just have no appreciation for what it takes to live in a city like Toronto. Everything is expensive. Stop taking so much money from people. They don't have it. They don't have the money. You figure out a different way. You're supposed to be, you know, maintaining infrastructure. That was your job. That was the reason we paid these levies. And now you're telling me it's not enough. I got to pay for the roof. Come on. What are we talking about here? This is crazy.
Well, you know who doesn't have the money as well are the people that were on the UBI system in Ontario. And for those who are unaware, Ontario did have a pilot project for a UBI. This was, I think, in 2016, 2017, done in the cities or towns of Lindsay, Hamilton, and Thunder Bay. Well, they canceled that after a new government was formed in Ontario. So those UBI projects were basically stopped. And the people that were collecting are now finding other ways to make ends meet. Well, one way that they're going to try to make ends meet is they have launched a class action lawsuit against the government of Ontario for the tune of $200 million. And so, yeah, so there you go.
That's why there's a new rain tax coming. Oh, yeah, man.
I'll pay for this $200 million lawsuit. So, yeah, there you go. They couldn't get money that was raining down on them. But, yeah, maybe they'll find it one way or another, it seems. I don't know if this lawsuit's even going to go through, but it's a lot of money, man. $200 million. The lawyers are the ones that are going to win this one
for sure
in the end. But what a absolute disaster. But apparently the lessons learned through this UBI, that pilot project they did, that was what the government of Canada was using when they drafted their report for a GBI system. I forget which. So they refer to the Ontario pilot project, and they use that as a lot or some of the justification for their findings. So it wasn't for naught. They used this as a way to help at least figure out if a UBI or GBI in Canada is worthwhile. And apparently it doesn't seem like it's the case. So we can take away something from this whole UBI thing, but these guys, they were going to take away 200 million, it looks like. So
yeah, good for them. That's a lot of money. Where did they come up with that number exactly? Anyone know? Like, was that lost value? Like 200? I mean, if you just kept giving me the money in 2016 and I put it into Bitcoin, it'd be worth.
One person was saying now. They even have to buy like used shorts, and I can't believe they're saying like used underwear. I think they were saying like she is like really hard up, and whatever money she's getting, she just can't make.
I don't have necessarily, you know, something negative to say about that, but I will just note that we have mentioned on the show before that frequently people who need these kind of supports don't make the best decision with the money when they get them. And we talked about this, you know, a couple in Florida who had this UBI pilot. What did she do? She got her hair done and went to Disneyland or whatever. I don't want to dox too much here, but I know a guy. I went to high school with a guy who was part of that program. He was in the Hamilton Spectator for a story, and he was not working on anything when he got the UBI grant. And when he got the grant, he decided to take on this passion project where he was like a painter of some kind, like an art. He was making art, and the art wasn't very good. He was having a hard time selling it, but he was happier and his mental health was better and all these things. But, you know, I don't see how that's really that beneficial vis-a-vis UBI. And actually, Floyd Marinescu makes this case too, that what you see is people working for less because they're doing something they're passionate about when they have UBI as a floor. And people are generally happier. They're more productive in this way. And stuff that wouldn't get done because it's not really that well paying suddenly is getting done because there's this backstop, financial backstop for you. I don't necessarily see a lot of value there. I think about you and me, okay? And I won't say what we do for work, but there's things I'd rather be doing than going to work every day, for sure. The podcast is a great example of that. But our passion project, we do it on our own time. You know, like I do the reading for the show most of the time on like Saturday morning with a coffee, or I'll do it after work, or I'll do it on lunch, or I'll listen to the podcast. Like I do it on my own time. I do it on my own time because I'm passionate about it. These two things, like there's a wall between these two things. And I think this idea that UBI can help you make a passion into a profession is a little misguided. Not all passions are deserving of professional status, and not all professions will allow you to find passion in day-to-day tasks. Somehow that's not mind-bending for me, but it seems to be mind-bending for a lot of UBI people. And you know, again, like 200 million seems like an awful lot, and I know I'm kind of far off the beaten path here, but I just have a hard time putting all this together and seeing how UBI is a valuable thing long term. Short term might help, but long term it doesn't solve the problem. It fixes some symptoms in the interim, but you don't get out of the things that cause you to need UBI by giving UBI, is what I would say.
Well, if you're able to do something of value and people are going to pay you accordingly to the skill set you're bringing to the table, that is what the market is saying. So there is a net gain to society for that. So if you are doing art and the art is not very good and you're not able to sustain yourself with that, but you need UBI to elevate you to the point where you can, it's a losing game. It may work this month, but over time, because you are providing less to society, and there's also going to be a lot of people in the same position that are providing less to society. Society then gets less from everybody.
Yeah.
Taxation dollars go down, and it just becomes a negative feedback loop, and then the money gets further devalued, and more money has to be given to people to elevate them to the point where they want to be. It just gets worse and worse. So what I'm trying to get at is, if you're not doing something and you're not getting paid enough to basically sustain yourself, you got to find something else to do. Hopefully you have that skill set. If not, you have to somehow learn it or attain it somehow. Because that's really the only way to do it. You can't rely on somebody else to continually give, because that's going to be at the expense of what? Well, I'm not going to say we understand what it is, but
that's right.
That's the reality. Yeah. I mean, I prefer it. I could play NHL 94 all day, stream that shit all day.
Imagine.
Get paid to,
there are people who get paid for streaming video games, by the way.
What am I doing society? Like I'm doing fucking nothing in the long run.
Well, the end of the day too, like some part of me, maybe it's naive to think that we're not in this bracket. I think what we do is valuable. And I think that people like what we do because it helps inform them. They can make good decisions, even though this is not financial advice. But the one thing I think is like, is the reason that people can do stuff like stream video games and, do makeup tutorials and make cooking videos, is the reason they can do that and get paid because money is still too cheap, or was too cheap for too long? Is that why? Because people are just getting money and they just don't know what to do with it. They're wasting it on nonsense. Maybe. I don't know. It's like none of this stuff.
Advertisement that goes along with it. I mean,
yeah, clicks and whatnot. But like but the whole thing is still like, if people have no money to spend, then you need to target people who have disposable income, and the people who are watching makeup tutorials are not those people, right? The people who are watching videos on, how to farm the best items in Diablo 2, which I'm guilty of watching, by the way. I have a small problem.
Hey, if it gets eyeballs, and
the question is, but the question is, whose eyeballs is it getting? If it's not getting net producer eyeballs, then what good is the advertising? Right?
As long as
that's how I know. That's how I know that we get net producer eyeballs, because our fucking videos are stuffed full of ads. There's ads every 10 seconds on our fucking videos, and like, so I know that we get net producer eyeballs. But is there really net producer eyeballs on some of this other stuff, on like Valorant videos, or I don't know?
That's the market. That's free market. If somebody's willing to pay for that, all the more power to them. It doesn't matter. That's just the way things are. And maybe it's because money is cheap and money is broken. And if we're in
that's how it feels.
System, but given the constraints or the system which is currently set up, if there's an advertiser willing to pay for it, all the more power to them. Go nuts. Yeah. Either if you're paying YouTube to put their ad on, or paying the content creator directly. Ad read.
Boomer makes a good point too, right? Like maybe it's just that no one's watching TV now, so all that money has to go somewhere for ads, and it just goes to YouTube. Maybe he's right. Yeah, maybe there is dollars there. Anyway, that's it. That's the end of the show. 1 hour, 49 minutes. Good job today, Len. Great show.
Well,
Don't forget
stories to go. What the fuck?
Yeah. Okay. Say them in the mirror. I'm not doing them with you.
Again.
Don't forget, spend money on Bull Bitcoin. All the kickbacks we usually get will add up if you focus and make your buys in the next 2 weeks. We're going to give it all to Madex. Okay. And he can come on the show again and talk about the ordinals thing and Bailey and whatever else he wants to talk about before the conference. And I'll probably talk to him at the conference too, which would be nice. So thank you once again. Take care, comb your hair, and we'll see you next week. Or see you Wednesday. Who you got Wednesday?
We have Jaime Garcia.
Jaime.
I'm not sure. You doing it or I doing it? I don't even know.
No, you do it. I'm not doing it.
I have Jaime Garcia coming on.
I got a busy April of some in-person interviews. I got to clean this room here. So you do, Jaime.
Very good. Okay. So yeah, Jaime Garcia. We're gonna get a catch up on what's going on over in El Salvador. Follow up after the election. But yeah, tune on in and don't be a cock.